Parminder is here permanent, but like me,
als berühmte indische Person in
oh, I know by the time we are about to settle, we have to so it's always the Indians who provide the continuity, and that's very important.
All this time, I think I would say the consulate has been providing really wonderful support. So, and on both sides, like the consul general and the staff that comes from India and the local staff, because both of them have to support it, otherwise it would not work. And I think it has been a great period, at least since I have joined it. I've seen it being continuously supported and increased.
Yeah, of course, we continue that, and let's hope. Hopefully with the vaccine and all, at least the second half of the year, we can restart, all this more events.
Right, for our India week, it would be really great if we can make use of the second half of this year. Yeah. But to be honest, I believe this is also a great opportunity for us, all in all. It has enabled some new things through the help of technology, which we did not use so far.
Yeah.
We can now actually use digital platforms and reach out to many, many more people in India and abroad, and then not just in Hamburg. So within Germany, outside Germany, we can reach now many more people, and we can invite guests, otherwise, like because of financial resources, time constraints, people who could not have joined us as speakers, now they would be able to contribute. So I also see a lot of opportunities coming in. Let's see.
Obviously, that it's plus points. Yeah, I agree with you.
Consul General, sir, if you don't mind, so we will just take 2-3 minutes. We will wait and then we can start, sir.
Yes, I think it's time. We're already 6:35.
Yeah. Right. So just for 2 minutes. So Victor, is it okay? We'll just start in 2 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, so then let's start. Very a warm evening to every one of you. Hopefully, I think outside it's cold, but I'm sure all of you inside the house, so I think it's quite warm for you to be very comfortable. And first of all, very, very special welcome to our new Consul General, sir. Mr. John H. Rongold, sir, very, very special welcome to you. This the first event, and also something for us to have you in this event. Presiding an event is something a great privilege and honor. Thank you for your time, sir, for being here today. So I'd like to give a special welcome to our guest or personality of the month, or the guest of the evening today, Professor Emeritus Victor Smetacek, and his better half, Karan. Both of you, warm welcome. Victor, thanks for your time to take part in this series. We are very much looking forward to. I'm sure 1 hour, 1.5 hours is going to be enough, knowing how much of wealth of information and also very nice things you'd like to share. But we will make most out of our time. And also a very good evening to every one of you who are joining now at this Wednesday Dialogue series. Just to give you a prelude before Consul General sir welcomes the gathering, this event started in this is the 6th episode. So every month we are having one personality of the month, either of person of Indian origin or international or German origin, who has been working very closely with India or have a large interest in India, working together in any fields, let it be culture, journalism, or industry, education, science. So this is especially to make sure the achievements and the expertise these people have, and to also show it publicly, and to get more people connected and to get to know what's happening both here, and also how their life experiences have shaped them, how they are, and what they would like to share with us, inspiring and really giving a new insight which is not available somewhere in a book published or something, because this is a raw personal experience. So we want to really touch upon that and hear from them directly. So that's the whole idea of it. So it has been quite successfully going. So without any break every month, we could have very, very special and very honorable experts till now. Today, we had a great luck to have Professor Victor Smetacek today. Without much of the time taking out, because every one of you is looking forward to hear, as I am too. But now I would like to kindly invite our Consul General Sir to offer the word of welcome to all the audience and also for the event. Sir, please.
Thank you, Bala. First of all, I must congratulate Dr. Bala Ramani. He just won this year's Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award. Again, congratulations for that. And
Thank
our
you, sir.
guest today, our personality today, Professor Victor Smetacek, also is a previous winner of the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award. So he won this in 2012. And we also have from the Hamburg area, previously in 2007, Mr. Sibabrata Roy was president of the Indo-German Society, and also Professor Dr. Gurcharan Singh Chatwal, head of Department of Medical Microbiology at the Helmholtz Center for Infection Research. So it's really a privilege for me to be here, to be among august company who have won this very prestigious award. So congratulations again for that. Also, I would just like to thank Dr. Bala and also my predecessor, Mr. Reiger, for having initiated this very interesting Wednesday dialogue series. I would say this is one of the good things that have come out of the pandemic. I mean, it was all not, we couldn't meet, and basically the world stopped in a way. But this is one of the good things that have come out of it. And today I was watching some of the previous series in this dialogue, and I found it really very interesting because, like Bala said, it adds a personal touch to a person's experience. I mean, you can write it in a book, but there's nothing like the person actually sharing their experience, how they grew up and what shaped them in life. So I really look forward to an interesting interaction today. And once again, thank you, Bala, for organizing this. And I hope we continue this in the months to come. Thank you very much. And again, welcome to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. It's really very heartwarming and very encouraging, and certainly, God willing, and with all your support, we will continue this series. And from my side also, a big thanks to Sri Raigar sir, former Consul General, and the whole CGI team, especially Parminder Bhai also, for making sure the social media and all the promotion and all those things takes place. So Victor, let's get into the program. So as I discussed with you, this we would like to have it as interactive as possible, so that also to give the audience the opportunity to speak with you. And also very happy that Karan is also joining today, very special. So we will have a three blocks, I would say. So the first one, I would like to discuss with you a bit on your early times in India and your personal journey, and the second half more into your the career and science, and the third part on your general how do you see about the current world, sustainability, climate change, and what are the things you are looking at, how do you see that, and those are the things would be very happy to look at it. So before which I am starting, the very special question for me is, when I asked you for a picture for the flyer, you sent me a picture, and we had the picture, and then you said, Bala, could you please enlarge my picture to show the bamboos? I was wondering, what is that so special? Could you share that with the audience, that it's, for me, when you ask for a picture, people send a formal picture, that's very normal, but you have something with the bamboo, and then you said there is something behind it. Could you please share?
Well, this bamboo is it's in my background. It's my backyard. I grew it here, right? And they are this big. Nobody believes it. As a matter of fact, when people walk by our street, I ask them, you want to see something interesting, and then I bring them here and I show them this bamboo, and it's like an Indian bamboo. I mean, it's about 12, 13 meters tall, and this thick. So I love bamboos, and I grow a lot of. We have about 20 species of bamboo here, and this one is just exceptional. I mean, it's gone wild, and that's why I like to. I'm very proud to show it to people that this is also possible in Germany.
That's right. Absolutely. Thanks very much. And that's something very, very surprising too, that you say that, bamboo and so many, and also like in India in such high. I mean, it's really very special. Victor, let's start with, um, how do you call yourself? I mean, in the sense of international personality, you are in Germany. When people refer to you, how do you say that? Indian, German, Indo-German, or international, or how do you want to call yourself? And how do you see the whole development of it from the early times?
Well, I call myself an Indian living in Germany. So Indo-German, I mean the true Indo-German. That Indo-German is what everything from Europe to India is one big family. Then Hindi is a derivative of Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is the mother language of Indo-European, Indo-German languages, right? Anyway, no, I grew up in India. I was 18 when I came here. And it's after as long as I was in India, I had no special relationship to myself, in the sense that I didn't know who I was, what I was, in that sense, because I was in India. But you come abroad, and then you have to decide, who are you? Like my father is German. He came to India because he was fleeing from the Nazis. He was one of the few Germans who fled the Nazis. So he was from Sudetenland, which is now in Czechia. And it was occupied by the Nazis, and that's when he left in 38, and he at the end of 38. So he arrived here just as the war broke out. He arrived in Calcutta, on a ship, which he managed to get on board. He was one of the last people who were able to leave Germany, and then he landed up in Calcutta, and he gave himself up. It was, of course, British at that time, and they interviewed him, and they checked him, they screened him, I guess, and then they let him go because he was okay, right? That means we still don't know the exact details, but the Gestapo had been after him and so on, right? So he was a prominent anti-Nazi person at the time. They even made a film about him here in the WDR, the West German radio. They showed, they went there and filmed him. Anyway, so he landed up in Calcutta, and then he worked, because he also had a Czech background. My name, Smetacek, is actually Czech. And he worked with Bata Shoe Company. Bata is famous, right?
Of course.
And they took him in, and he spent some years working there. And then he left Bata and made his own factory, and he was manufacturing stuff for the American Army, uniforms and things like that. So he made quite a bit of money, I guess. And then he decided to retire to a forest estate in Kumaun. This is an estate that had been established by the British. It was a Colonel Jones who established it in the 1880s. This is close to Nainital. It's just west of Nepal. So he bought this estate, and he took my mother. He met my mother, of course, in the meantime, and then we were born. I was born in 1946, and 1946 itself, 46, 47, we migrated to Kumaun. So I grew up in Kumaun, and Kumaun is the foothills of the Himalayas, forest, and I spent an absolute highly privileged childhood and youth there. Because of the rich nature of Kumaun, I got interested in birds and later butterflies and the flora also. So I had a very strong grounding in ecology, actually, because of my personal interest. You asked me whether I was following the cricket matches. Well, every time I attended a school in Nainital that was an Irish Catholic school. And they used to have sports also, but I used to run away from sports. I wasn't interested in chasing balls. I preferred to go into the forest and look for birds and butterflies and things like that. So I had a very thorough grounding in nature, and that has formed me completely. And of course, also with the local people, I was happier with the local people than with my schoolmates at this college. So what happened is that since I used to go hunting and fishing and things like that, we had some guests from Delhi, Germans, who came and asked me whether I would like to study in Germany when I was 18. I did my bachelor there at a school and a college affiliated with the Agra University. It is now the Kumaon University in Nainital. I think Nainital is well known to people, right?
So, Victor,
Uttarakhand.
just one point before you continue. So, till 18 years, you are in India, if I'm
Yes.
right, and
Yes.
mostly confined to the, let's say, Himalayan kingdom. Yeah.
Pahari, Pakka Pahari, just was a mountain, a hillbilly, you know. And I
Right.
hadn't gone anywhere else. Yeah.
So, how good is your language skills till today? Have you picked up the local, let's say, folk songs and all those things those days?
Yeah. The Kumani songs, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am not a good singer, no? Let me think. Well, there's one very famous song, no? Beru Pako Baro Masa, Onara Kafal Pako Cheta, Neri Chera. These are folk
So
songs
because
from
you have been also
Kumar.
in those areas, I'm pretty sure even today your Hindi is good.
हिंदी तो अगर आप चाहे तो मैं आपको हिंदी में भी भाषा कर सकता हूँ अगर
Perfect.
हिंदी
What more?
पक्का हिंदी में बात करते हैं कोई बात नहीं
Okay. Please continue.
okay.
I just was very curious to ask that. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And the interesting thing is that okay, so anyway, I came at the age of 18. I was offered this scholarship because I had this was the head of the Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst, the German academic exchange service, and he was head. And so he asked me if I would like to go to Germany to study, and I said yeah. I didn't take it seriously. I said yes, okay. And then suddenly he went back to Delhi, and then a week later we got the admission forms. My father filled them out for me, and he said this is going to take a year probably. So the question was what are your German skills? And I didn't speak a word of German at that time because we were only speaking Hindi and English at home. So my father said fluent because by that time I'll teach you German. So I got the scholarship then a couple of weeks later, and I had to leave like within 2 months, right? No time to learn German or anything or do anything else. So I had to go to Lucknow to get my passport. I had to go to Kanpur to get my foreign exchange permit. I had to go to the education ministry in Delhi. So I was just running around like crazy. A Pahari, no idea about anything. Suddenly I have to go to all these places, go on the railway. I mean, I didn't even have experience with traveling on the train. So by the time I got all the necessary papers, my father had to come with my suitcase, packed suitcase. And because he entered fluent German, right, they gave me just 2 months in the Goethe Institute. Normally, people from India would get 6 months, but I only got 2 months. And so I landed up in this Goethe Institute next to Frankfurt. And well, they examined me, and then they said, "Yeah, you have to go to Grundstufe 1 because German was 0." Right? But this is something I want to tell you. When I think back, I'm impressed by myself. Actually, I learned German in 2 months, enough to pass the entrance exam for the university, and that's because I was scared. I thought that if I didn't pass the exam, they would send me back because I didn't have anybody to talk to. They were all foreigners at this Goethe Institute. And so if you really work hard and you put your mind to it, right? And I would read kind of cheap novels with a dictionary and write all the words down I didn't know. So they got less and less over time. But so I learned German in this 2 months. And then I landed up in Kiel because they asked. Yeah.
Victor, it's really something like in an adventure film, I would say, in a sense. The whole stretch of events that happened. You yourself never ever dreamt that, somebody is coming to you and going to ask, would you like to come to Germany? And then you landed in Germany and now you are here. But could you maybe share with us some of the anecdotes that between your, school, college, and then till you started to Germany,
Yeah.
some of the things that till today you are something very special moments, which is something binding you so much to India all the time.
Yeah, so it was as long as I was in India, I was absorbed in nature. That's all, Even if I went to Delhi, I used to look at the birds and not at the buildings, because there were new kinds of birds for me. And so that has always been my major interest, and still is actually. Anyway, so when I then landed up in Germany, I had, of course, no contacts, nothing. But there was a family who had some connection to my father's family from the past, in living in Kiel, because I was sent to Kiel. So I was asked, what are you going to study? And I said, marine biology, on the spur of the moment, because I had read an article in a Reader's Digest called Bread from the Sea. And in this article, they said the future for mankind, food for mankind, is going to be the sea. So that's how I got mentioned this marine
So
biology.
basically, you got fellowship, but it's not clear what you would study, yeah?
They asked me what, and I said marine biology. So they gave me a fellowship in the University of Kiel. They
Okay.
got me a position at the University of Kiel. I had only done my Bachelor of Science at that time. I started very early. I went at the age of 4. I was sent to school, right? So I did my bachelor at the age of 18.
Right. It's now even today in India, you are right. I mean, people used to go at 3, 4 early, and then, yeah, that's right.
Right. We don't have it was a kindergarten, but anyway, we started very early. So I had my Bachelor of Science, and I only got a 2nd division. So normally I wouldn't have done very well. But because of this German heritage and so on, right, I got the scholarship. And because this guy who discovered me in a way, he was impressed, I guess. Anyway, so then I landed up in Kiel, and I was lucky to get admission into a hostel. And in this hostel, there were Indian students. So, of course, I felt affinity with them more than anything else. So we used to cook together. No? And that is, I think, standard. Anywhere Indian and living in a hostel or something, we'll get together and cook. So Saturdays we used to cook. And none of us had any experience in cooking. I didn't. But then we started and we became pretty good cooks. I give cooking classes now.
So we have to speak on that later. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so we used to cook and enjoy. And then they used to speak Hindi, right? And all the Indians there would then speak Hindi. And actually, my Hindi improved enormously in Germany. Because in India, we were not conscious of keeping the language clean. We would speak, even today, people speak 1/3 English and 2/3 Hindi. But we decided that we would not use any English terms. We would speak pure Hindi. So sometimes we were engrossed in a conversation because there were Germans there also in this kitchen, right? And they would tell us at that time that, yeah, you Indians, you are backward, right? You have to use English to make yourself understood, right? I mean, at that time they didn't even understand that people from South India didn't speak Hindi. That there was no Indian, right? There were many languages like Europe, but by chance, most of the people there did speak Hindi. So we used to go to great trouble not to use any English terms, because the Germans who were in the room also, they were listening to us. So, but then what we found out, another way to get rid of the other people, was to fry chilies, in the kitchen. We used to heat them up so much that there would be this the smell and the burning of the chili, and then the people would leave. And of course, they also wanted to eat our food. So then we had to make it very hot, right? We put a lot of chili in the food so that they wouldn't eat too much of our food, because we were polite. They said, can we get? So those
So
are
basically,
the
I think there are so many people, who are so interested to taste the Indian food. So I think you guys got tired and you wanted to get them away, right?
No, yeah, because they wanted to eat our food. No? So, and we couldn't say no because Indians don't like to say
Of
no.
course.
So then we said, but it's very hot, and so then we would just give them a little bit. The problem, of course, was that it became so hot that we also had problems eating it.
So, do you still connected with your friend? That friend even today?
Well, he passed away last year.
Oh, sorry for that.
Yeah. He was Jamuna Prasad Agarwal.
Yeah.
So he was my mentor. He was 10 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
And he took me under his wing, and he taught me a lot of things, including Shuddh Hindi.
So he was in Kiel till last.
He was in Kiel, yes. He was in the Institute for Economy, World Economics, which is quite a famous institute.
Yes, it is quite famous institute. That's right. Actually. So let's say, how was the transition? I mean, for me, that's quite curious because you came at the age of, when did you arrive here? Like 22, 21,
No,
you
18,
came to Germany?
18. I was 18.
18, you came here,
Right.
and then you started your education here.
Yes.
So I think as soon as you got the fellowship and you landed here, it's all about, let's say, 2 to 3 months?
Yes, 2 months.
2 months. Was the decision quite difficult? What were your parents saying? Or what is, is it was clear that you ought to go, or it was more like because you earlier said in many interviews as well, nature in India is something, and you also told right now just before, biodiversity is even today something in India is so much we have done and so much is very special and everything. And you have said also forest, something you have lived most of your time or you enjoyed the forest there. So was it so difficult for you to take that decision?
Well, yes, but as I mentioned, I didn't take it seriously. I said, yeah, okay, I'll take it. Then we got the papers, and then I thought it's probably not going to come through. It wasn't like a big story. And then suddenly, it all like a landslide. We have lots of landslides in the Kumaun foothills. Like a landslide, I suddenly landed up in Germany. I didn't have time to think about anything. Same with my family. They just suddenly I was gone. Because it happened like in June. I think I took this guy out fishing, and he asked me, would you like to go, and so on. And then by August, I had to leave. In September, October, September, I was in Germany.
So during your education in Kiel, did you have the opportunity to go back often to India, or how was it?
Yes. I was given, after 2 years, I was allowed to go home again.
Okay.
And they let me go they encouraged it for 2 months in the semester ferien. So I went home. And the local people said, Are, you've been in Germany for 2 years and you come back looking the same. They said, you didn't get fat or anything. They expected me to get bigger or something. I don't know. And then they also said, oh my God, this guy, he speaks Shuddh Hindi now. He doesn't say family, he says parivar. So those are the changes that they noticed when I came home. Yeah, and then...
so how long your father, was in India after that? And, do you have still your house or the old home in India?
Everything is still intact. My father passed away in the early 90s. He came to Germany for visits after that, because my sister is also here in Kiel, right?
Right.
So he came with my mother and twice to Germany, but then after about a month, he would say, I want to go home again, back to India. So he became an Indian national. And just like me, I'm also still an Indian citizen. I still have my passport.
So you mean, of course, as an overseas citizenship of India, OCI,
no,
right?
No, I have only the Indian passport.
Still you have only Indian passport. That's very special, yeah?
Yeah,
so
I have
living basically in your extended or the so-called Niederlassung Erlaubnis, yeah?
Yeah. Aufenthaltserlaubnis. I have an Aufenthaltserlaubnis.
Okay.
Aufenthaltstitel.
Yeah.
Aufenthaltstitel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I feel comfortable there and here also. So I feel I'm at home in both places.
Right.
And I would like to, I don't see a competition either, no? And I just want to retain my Indian roots, because they are roots.
Right.
And the crown, and if you compare me with the tree, then the roots are Indian and the crown is German. I mean, the branches at the top and the leaves.
Right. So before we move to the next block, one thing which I really wanted to ask you very much was, when was your last visit to India?
In 2015.
Okay, so till then you are literally visiting every year?
Yes, I was visiting India every year from 2006 to 15, because I was an adjunct scientist at the National Institute of Oceanography in
NIO.
Goa, NIO, exactly. So I used to go there every year in that
So
period.
now also, are you having scientific collaborations, or you are in touch with institutions in India?
No, at the moment, no longer. After 2015, that ended because I also retired. I mean, heavy duty retirement. I mean, I
Right.
retired even earlier before that, but then I kind of pulled out more or less. Right. So when
So,
I go home, the place where I grew up is exactly the same. It's still the same, like now as it was then. And I can recommend people to visit it because it's a very beautiful part of the world. There are lakes there and forests, and it's wonderful.
so how do you actually see the life per se, Victor, there in India during your time and now? You said it looks like all similar, but do you see the way the people live and
Oh
everything
yeah,
has changed? Of
yeah,
course,
yeah. Of
I'm not
course.
speaking about the so-called modern development of things. That's different.
Right,
I'm
right,
just
right, right.
speaking about the way of life and how
Oh
things are
yes,
still there.
oh yes. That has improved enormously, enormously. There have been enormous for the poor people. Because when I used to go to India, when I grew up in India, people were living in mud and thatch houses. I mean, it was they were very poor people there in Kumaon. And now they all have pakka houses. I mean, they have walls and roofs and so on. So what I was saying, it hasn't changed. I just meant the landscape.
Right.
The forests and because but the biology hasn't changed. But
Okay.
the people have advanced enormously, and that's very good, very very good.
But it's quite surprising for me to see that you have saying that biology has not changed. That means you say that the efforts of conservation of generally the taking care of the nature, it's still quite doing well.
India is one of the is leading. No? India has greened in the last decades. No? This is not just reports from the forest department. These are satellite images internationally. So India, the forest cover in India has improved by. It used to be only 10-12%, and now we're already at above 20%. So it has more than doubled, and you see that, because when I was there in the past, there were okay. The place where I grew up has not changed, but other hills in the neighborhood, they are now forested, they were barren before. So India is doing an enormous amount for conservation. Makes me very proud because everybody joins in this effort. No?
Right. So before we move into your scientific career, just one thing of the fun question. What is the food you most like? Not that from what you cook, because I still remember last time when I visited you and you cooked something very nice. And really, I'm still, twice when I visited you. But what's your own favorite when you say that, you like those foods? Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Well, I can't help it, but the food that I cook, I like that best.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very
Aloo,
good thing. I mean,
aloo
what?
gobi. I make aloo gobi. I really like aloo gobi. Cauliflower and potato, huh?
Right.
And vegetarian food, of course, right? So panch phoda and tarkari, vegetable tarkari, baigan ka bharta and all that kind of stuff, right? So dal, of course, dal is always a fixture. So Indian
Okay,
food
so
is
I
very
think
good.
we will take, let's say, another 6 minutes because, as I said, I think we don't want to have a monotonous,
Sure,
a
sure.
discussion between both of us. I'm sure you have shared some of your early life, how it was, and where you. I think now I kindly request our esteemed audience also to open up and interact with Victor. So if you are comfortable, of course, you can switch on your camera and you can speak to Victor and ask some intriguing things that what probably comes to your mind. Or if you want to keep it the video off, also it's absolutely fine. Just switch on your microphone and then please go ahead. Who would like to start?
Can I ask you, Professor?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. You mentioned about the bamboos in your garden.
Right.
I come from a land of bamboos everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
use them for everything. We eat the bamboo shoot. In fact,
Right. Right.
delicacy. And
Right.
and I just wanted to ask, from where did you get that big bamboo? Was it, I mean, is it available here, or you brought it all the way from India? Just
No, no, no.
curious.
No, it's all available here. And these
Okay.
bamboos that I have in my garden, I have 20 species of bamboo.
Hmm.
They are actually from China, and well, that part of the Himalayas that goes into China in the east, huh? And these are the bamboos that the pandas like to eat,
Okay.
the panda bears. So the bamboos that I have are all of Chinese origin. They grow up in the higher mountains, so they can take minus 20 degrees.
Okay.
They can take the cold, but the shoots taste delicious.
Yeah. Do you also take harvest the shoot, or
Yes, yes,
oh,
yes.
that's
I invite people
uh,
to when we have the harvest. We've had up to 10, 15 people come,
mm,
and then we go and harvest the shoots and then cook them. So
ah,
my lawn is also full of another species of bamboo. My
ah,
wife gets nervous every time because they keep coming out all over the place. These are bamboos that spread.
yeah, they grow
So
very
yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah. But then we just take the shoots and then they leave us in peace. They don't make any more trouble after that.
There's nothing like fresh bamboo shoot.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And you know that bamboo is an extremely important plant also for climate change,
Yeah.
for main uh, uh, sequestering carbon.
Hmm.
We have. I'll talk later on about that. But bamboo would have a huge future for in that particular field because it fixes more carbon than most other plants.
Ah, right. Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you, sir. So I think now we have Rajesh Bhai. He wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Bala, thank you. Actually, I do not have a specific question, Professor Smetacek. It's simply really inspiring and mesmerizing to hear you and to listen to you. So I am really enjoying the talk and the questions that have been put and the interesting insights that you are giving about how India works and how India used to work in those days, how Germany was in those days, how things were moving. So I do not have any specific question at this point of time. I just want to say that I'm really glad that I have joined in today and I can have the good fortune of listening to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rajesh Bhai. So I think now Rupa is here, and I am sure Rupa, I think, has a long memory, goes back with
Srishti?
Victor. So I think,
Yes.
Rupa, would you like to say, and you go back to your memory line?
Yeah. Hello, Victor. How
Ah,
are you?
Rupa!
Hi. Yeah, hi,
Oh, how nice! Oh,
Papa.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
yeah. How are you doing?
Oh my God. Yeah. We're doing
Yeah,
well.
well.
So you still
Uh,
in Goa or you? No.
well, I'm in Kiel. I'm in Guiomar.
Ah, yeah. Since when?
So I just completed 1 year.
Ah, you didn't let me know. Okay. Oh, yeah, that was
Sure.
the COVID year. Yeah, the year before that, I was also in Kiel. I gave lectures there.
Oh, I
Ah,
missed
okay, okay.
it. So
I'm in Kuwait now.
In where? In Kuwait.
Kuwait,
Aye.
yeah, Middle
yeah.
East.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Ah, how nice.
So it is actually, yeah. So we also don't have a particular question,
Ah,
but we know how much we benefited by being in touch with you, like since 2008, right? Yeah, I
yeah.
remember the winter school exactly.
Right,
And it
right.
is always so wonderful to hear you. It's always motivate us. Yeah.
Thank you. Amit, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So maybe
Super.
you have something that you come back and maybe you want to share with in the next blocks.
Yeah,
Um,
do let
Actually,
me know.
Victor, there is a question about how did you meet Karan? What is the story?
Well, I was 19. She was just turned 18, And we met at a New Year's ball. She was there with her parents, and I had just learned to dance, right? So she was sitting there, and she was so beautiful. I went and asked her whether she would dance, and then and then said, "I'd like to meet you again," and so on.
So
That's how we met.
you immediately had the courage to go and ask her, right?
Yeah. And she joined. You did get up and join dance.
Ah,
Yeah, and then so we've had quite a career, no? Because we had a car accident in 1981,
right.
really bad one, and Karen was she suffered a stroke as a result, lost her language, no. So we don't have children, but then I told her today that I feel like no, she's not my daughter, but I mean she's a child, that because she was completely helpless immediately after the accident. She couldn't say a word. There was no question of getting out of bed. The doctor said she's not going to recover. And I told her that by that time she'd been to India a couple of times before the accident. So I said, we're going to climb that hill again, the one where I grew up. And we did. We climbed it twice, actually, matter of fact, after that.
Congratulations. I mean, this is again so inspiring. I read the article actually in Reader's Digest, if I'm right.
Right.
And that inspiring that, after all that has happened, and the willpower by which Karan has come through, and you have been supporting after the accident, that's again something very special to the audience, to really know, if there is a will, there is a way always. And I think that's something you both have proven again and again. I think that's very, very special. And before we go to that, we have someone, Padmanava, if I'm right. I'm not sure whether it's that's the name or the other name. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it's a quick question. So
go ahead.
Wow, what do you do when you miss Himalayas?
Good question.
It was difficult for me. I spent some time in Himalayas and I still miss a lot. So
okay, let's take one after another. So the first question, how do you replace Himalayas? You cannot, but still, what do you do?
Well, then I landed up at the sea, so the sea also has its charms. It's completely different. And in a sense, my father is like that. He grew up also in the mountains of in East Germany, and he went to sea. So he became a sailor. So you go into a completely different kind of environment then. Huh? And in Kiel, I was quite happy in Kiel, actually. I did miss the mountains very much in the beginning, the first couple of years. And but then I went quite a few times. I mean, I must have spent, in this period that I've been in Germany, I must have spent about 2, 3 or 4 years together in India in that period. And then
so
always in the Himalayas. Yeah.
Thank you. So what's your next question, sir?
That's the only question I have.
So I thought you had 3 questions. Okay, then I'm wrong. So okay, that's the only question as of now. That's good.
You just have to put up with it, right?
Yeah. Okay, so any of you have anything would you like to ask Victor at this point of time? So if not the case, then let's move on. It's a good. Thank you for that, and please we can keep it. And I think Sulagna wanted to ask something to Victor.
Yes.
How long you are away from the ocean, Victor? Because ocean was your life.
Yeah. No, so I spent about 2.5 years on the ocean. Add it all up together, right? So 3-month cruises. If I add them all up, I was about over 2 years on the ocean, and particularly in the Southern Ocean, in the Antarctica.
So when you were in NIO, there it was mostly you are doing your teaching and supporting the young researchers, or you also went there in the ocean there?
No, I didn't go in the ocean there.
Right.
No, I was just teaching on the coast. But we used to go swimming every day.
Okay. So, Victor, let's move on.
Yes.
Okay, you came to Germany. You went to Kiel, and you decided marine biology is something you are so fascinated, or you wanted to, and then that became your fascination, of course. And what was your idea when you started studying? You said, okay, I finished my master's, and then it was natural that you wanted to do PhD and you wanted to become a scientist, professor, things like that, or it just happened, or what was it all like?
You're right. It just happened. So when we were in the late 60s, there was a student movement. So Karen and I, my wife and I, we were active in the student movement.
Right.
And the whole intention was to pull down the power of the professors at that time. Because the professors, they were like gods. They could do whatever they liked. So we brought them down to level, and then I myself became a professor later on, but another kind of professor. So, no, what actually happened, I had the scholarship, and I was happy with the scholarship. But then because of the scholarship, I had to do my diploma, and then I got my diploma. And most of the German colleagues of mine at that time, students, they didn't have a diploma. So when a job offer came up, they didn't have any candidates. So they asked me, my professor asked me to take that job, and I said no, I won't, because I prefer to be the free in the scholarship, not because the job meant go 8 to 9, 8 to 5, and so on. Didn't want that. But then my friend Agarwal, he said, "Arey bhai, you don't insult Lakshmi. You see, Lakshmi is telling you, offering you something, you don't turn it down." So, so, so I then went to the professor and said, "Okay, I'll take the job." And then, but he said, "What? I have a condition that I can come and go when I like, because I'll do the work, right?" Yeah. So then I got into this research project, and it was an interdisciplinary research project with teams. We were working in teams, and that's why I developed my interest actually in marine science, because at that time it had nothing more to do with food from the sea. It was just plankton, and then we were moving into the carbon cycle. This is way back in the 70s. So we were pioneering at that time, because we were in this research project, we had the funds, and we could do what we liked. So that's why I guess I got where I am now, because we had nobody to tell us what to do. We just thought, what is the best thing to do? What is the most rational? What do we want to know about the ocean? Right? Like, what is life like in the plankton? Plankton is life that is in the water, floating in the water by itself. No? Unicellular organisms and small crustaceans and so on, zooplankton, phytoplankton. So using the background I had in general ecology from India, I applied that. I said, what do we want to know? So I did a lot of microscopy, which was unusual because I'm a very visual person, so I had to see the plankton. And then we also had all these new methods that were just being developed at that time. So we combined the two, and I put together a story of keelbite plankton and the role of the keelbite plankton in the carbon cycle that was unique. I mean, it was the first of its kind almost, right? We started what is now known as biogeochemistry. It's the impact of biology on the geochemistry, and it has to do with carbon cycling primarily. So that's what happened. And then after that, I just got job offers. I I didn't ever go around applying for a job. I was asked, "Would you like to apply?" And then I would say, "Okay, let's see."
So how did you? I mean, Avi. How did you land up in Avi? Actually, was there many job offers to choose, or Avi was the only choice?
No, what happened was that I was in this research project I told you about from the age of well, I was in my early 20s when I joined that, and the people who organized that, the professors, one of them, he became the founding father of the Alfred Wegener Institute in the mid 80s. So he asked me, he had the professorship, and in Kiel, I just kept getting these research positions, research assistant positions. Right, so I was a Hochschul assistant,
Right.
and again, that was something that again I was forced on me. Right, kind of, I didn't want to do it, but they said do it, and so I said okay, okay. So that way I moved on. I didn't have big career plans. I didn't have any kind of, I want to be this, I want to be that. It just happened. What I wanted to do was research on plankton. So I dedicated myself totally to research. And I wrote papers also, because again, this was my advantage that I had English, right? I had a good command of the language, so I could write the papers for our group, right? And then started sending them to good journals, and then so yeah, that's how I kind of developed. And then this professor who founded the Alfred Wegener Institute in Bremerhaven, he asked me if I would come and take this professorship. Again, I turned it down because of my wife Karen, because I didn't want to leave Kiel because we had all our friends there, the support group. But she said, no, no, let's go. So then I went to him and said, okay, I'll take it. Of course, I I said I'll take it, but it had to go through all the channels. No?
Of course, of course. That's always there. So, but can you just say one thing, Victor? What does make a researcher special? I mean, a researcher. What is that you learned all over the years, and what will you advocate to your students? When if you are a mentor, what is research? How should one approach research?
You need to be curious, right? You need to want to know something. You want to know what is this, it's whether it's a quantity or the quality, whatever. You want to have an interest, right? And your interest you get in whatever you're doing by applying all your faculties, meaning your sense organs, right? So I was aware that the plankton, the life in the plankton, is a completely foreign environment. It's completely different. So it was for me like, like a detective story. Like what is going on? How do they sense each other? How do they grow? How come they stay afloat? Why don't they sink? Because theoretically they should all sink. And so these were the questions that I used to ask. What is life like in the plankton? So I would put myself into that position. And then I realized that all the instruments we were using, they were like our extended sense organs. Since we cannot ourselves go into the water and experience the plankton the way we do that on land, because we are land organisms. So I started kind of, we used to call ourselves the science fiction brigade because it was using imagination and then taking samples accordingly and measuring the right properties that we wanted to know. And that's how we got this picture going. So without my knowing or being aware of it in that sense, we were pioneers. We opened up a lot of fields in research. So just simple questions like the phytoplankton that is growing there. They have these thick shells of silica. They call diatoms, right? So how do they stay afloat? We still don't know, as a matter of fact. But there we found out that they sink. Right? They grow for a couple of weeks and then they just sink in total. They are not eaten in the water column, they sink out. And that was not believed because at that time nobody had seen them sinking, but we had seen them sinking in Kiel Bight. See, so things like that, they kept me going. That is one thing. The other thing, which is extremely important, which I would like to tell every student, I always insist on this, is honesty. You have to keep whatever you see or measure or whatever, you have to put it on your table and keep it there. You don't take stuff that doesn't fit. If you have a picture beforehand and it doesn't fit, so you put it on the side, then you will not make any progress. The progress we made was whatever was unexpected, which you were surprised at. That was the thing that was much more interesting than just repeating what other people had done or just finding out what you assumed was the case. So every time there was some kind of exceptional event in the plankton or something like that, right? I would get excited, like, what the hell is going on? So you put yourself with all your emotions and interests and your intellect into what you're working on and being honest. That's so important. And I'm so glad about it because there's nothing I regret. There's no paper that I would take out and say, I wish I hadn't written it. Not one. They are all to be seen in their time, I mean, in their context of the time, but they are all authentic.
So you had a lot of, I'm pretty sure, in your illustrious career, a lot of students, and especially quite a lot of international students in your lab. How was it to have such an international community per se? How, in terms of the mix of diversity, culture, but also in terms of the lab work per se? What their challenges, or it was quite something always very positive?
No, of course there were huge challenges all the time. There were big challenges, but they were interesting challenges that you could get over, no? Because I then had students working in teams. I would teach them to work in teams. That was very important. And I might add over here also that what I'm particularly proud of is that the current director of the Alfred Wegener Institute uh, and the former director who was there for 8 years before her, right? Both of them are female and both of them were associated with me. The first director, Karin Lochte, she did her DSc with me here in Bremerhaven. Then she went away and then she came back as director. And the current director, Antje Boetius, she is also my PhD student. So that's I'm very proud of, right? That they are practically, as far as I know, the only women directors of the Helmholtz centers. No, the Alfred Wegener Institute is the Helmholtz Center, and so
Great.
many of you know that. So that makes me very proud. And then, of course, there are many professors all over the world who did their PhDs with me.
So, I mean, how the one thing is, which is research is intensive. For example, you spent, as you said, around 2.5 years, I would say, put together in the oceans.
On Polarstern, yeah.
Yeah, on Polarstern. And recently also the Polarstern was news and, it went
absolutely.
and successfully returned. So how was it? I mean, how was it to be there in no man's land? And, was it a decision that, would you like to go, or it's everybody working in RV, for them, it's like, something, their lifetime opportunity, they look forward to it. And how do you really come over that loneliness? And, of course, there will be a lot of people, but it's something different. You are in no man's land and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I had a particularly interesting cruise in 1991, 1990, as a matter of fact, where we got stuck in the ice in the Weddell Sea. We were going to repeat Shackleton's journey, around the Weddell Sea and out in the other side, right? So we went into the ice, we got stuck, and then we couldn't get out, and long tamasha. And a lot of drama also, because there were helicopters from a station that got stuck, and we had to go and rescue them, and it was a long story. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, people were panicking on the cruise at the time because we were stuck in the ice. No, we couldn't get out anymore with Polarstern. And then we managed to get out, and then again it was fitted all very well, because at that moment the East Germany fell. Deutsche Demokratische Republik. So we had to then go, leave our study area and go and pick up the crew, the East German crew. So they went there as East Germans and we brought them back as Germans on our cruise. And at that time, there was also the Indian Institute, the research station in Antarctica is close to that, it's a Russian station, and then the East German station was there, and also the Indian station. So we had transported some goods for the Indian station, but they were going to pick them up themselves. But then since we had to go there to pick up the Germans, we also took the stuff. So I went to the Indian station and didn't tell them anything, because it was all not part of the plan. So I landed up there, and then they had a ship. They had chartered a ship, a Swedish ship, and so we visited the ship, and then with the stuff, right? So I was the chief scientist. I had to make all these decisions about saving the helicopters. That's a long story. Anyway, so I got there, and then on the bridge there were some Indians standing around. So so I was kind of welcomed as the German chief scientist of Polarstern. So then I said, does anybody here speak Hindi? In Hindi, right? Aapko yahan Hindi bolne wala hai? So you should have seen them, like, wow. And then what happened is that then I went, yeah, it was a long story. I mean, so I went to so we had two stations at that time there. So I visited both, and they gave a banquet for me up at the top station, right? As a kind of guest of honor, and I still have that, the garland they put on me, a sandalwood garland. So that was really exciting and wonderful. And there's one person in the audience who's listening, as a matter of fact, whom I met there at that station. And there was another person in that group who had been in my school. So the world is small, as they say.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is, as I said, Polarstern is something very special, and in Antarctica, going there, and it's something a big thing. And so Polarstern is basically, to properly understand, it's a German initiative together with the international partners, right?
No, Polarstern is a German vessel. It's entirely German, but we invite people from other countries to join. But we carried out an expedition low effects. That was different. That was a different story. But we come to that later on, I guess.
Right, but to just to know that international partners you are inviting, but they also need to contribute to the resources, or how it works?
No, the research. We cannot. Okay, so my cruises, whenever I was chief scientist, we had a common goal. Very often, like the Mosaic had a common goal,
right,
to study the Arctic ice in the winter. And many cruises of Polarstern have different goals, right? So you go to the Antarctic, but one wants to measure that, one wants to measure this, that, and the other, and they're not related. But my cruises were always related. Every person on that cruise was contributing some piece to the big cake that we were baking, in that sense, right? So it was interdisciplinary. So from physical oceanography all the way into sedimentology and all the biology and everything else in between. So if you are missing an expertise, if there's some instrument that we would like to have that somebody has in another institute, then we would invite that person to come with that instrument and do this measurement. So that's how we organized our research cruises.
Right. So how do you relax yourself, Victor? I mean, whether it's intensive science, intensive research, what do you do? I mean, I'm sure I know that you are quite also enjoy your also poem, literature, and all those things, and you are also very fascinated with very old Indian languages and also others. How do you relax yourself? What's is there any mechanism or rhythm for you?
Yeah, the garden, at home. On the vessel, I don't need anything. I'm just enthralled by everything. They're just, yeah. I'm again very lucky. I don't get seasick, but I get the opposite. And I know very few people who are like who have that. So when the ship starts moving around a lot, I'm going up and down, and because we are in the furious 50s and the roaring 40s, right? And even Polarstern gets thrown around a lot by the waves and everything. So I get exhilarated. So most people around me get seasick and they go and lie down somewhere and you can't talk to them. They don't want to eat, nothing. But I get excited. I get overexcited and I start writing poetry and I wouldn't share that poetry, but anyway. So I really enjoy the sea enormously. Yeah.
So was there? Yeah, go ahead.
No, at home I have a garden. We have a very big garden because we have this house which is next to the Autobahn. So we have a very large garden with forest. And that's where I plant the bamboos. I mentioned I have 20 species of bamboo. And then I have a lot of Himalayan plants here also, shrubs. All bought here locally. None of them, I never bought a single plant from outside. They are all bought locally from the gardening shops. But these are all plants that people don't know. They're sold here, but normal people don't know them. And so I enjoy doing that, right? So I have a botanical garden here, more or less.
Can you remember an occasion which was very dangerous during the Polarstern time, either during being the chief scientist, you had to take decisions, or in terms of life-threatening situation? Can you share something on that?
Not my own life, but yeah, I mean the ship. Well, we had some dangerous experiences. Like one during low effects. This is when we had an Indian crew on board, a research crew, and there we got into what is known as a freak wave. When the ship, we were actually having the farewell party, and everybody was enjoying. We were enjoying ourselves. We were all dancing and enjoying it. And then suddenly the ship started, tilting like this. There's a freak waves is when you get when different waves from different regions come together and cause interference. When you have huge waves like that, right? So what happened is that we got into this freak wave, and then the party collapsed because everything fell down. We couldn't stand anymore either. We also fell down, and there was a big tamasha. So that was quite shocking. But the officer on watch, he steered the ship into the wave, and so he saved us. Otherwise, we would have capsized, perhaps. I mean, if he hadn't taken that precaution.
So was that dangerous? But was it something also programmed into the people's mind? Something that such kind of waves would happen?
No, we weren't prepared at all. because these are freak waves, right? These are things that can happen by accident, by chance. You never know where this can happen. Basically, the ships have sunk without any trace because of freak waves.
Okay.
Right, so it's known, right? So the physics of freak waves is studied, and we also figured out afterwards what happened, what led to this. That was one incident, and then I told you we got stuck in the ice, but
okay. I think that's quite an incident rich, I think, scientific life, I would say, of polar Stern or the other way around. And so maybe we can take a small 5 minutes out for maybe
sure.
some of your students are here or others, or maybe somebody would like to share something, or maybe you would like to ask something which you might be very interested to. Please do so. And yeah, if you wish to do that, switch on your microphone or your video. And because I think a lot of things Victor has said really fascinated me, actually, in terms of science, how he landed up, and also his expedition to Antarctica and all those things. Maybe you have something to ask Victor as well. Please do so. So the floor is open. Who would like to go ahead? Sir.
Yeah, very interesting, Professor. I mean, scientific wise, and also in terms of adventure and all that you have experienced. I just wanted to ask you. You've been associated, you said, with the National Institute of Oceanography in Goa. What is your take on India in the field of oceanography? I mean, where are we in India?
Oh, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. My colleague at the NIO, Dr. Naqvi, he's world famous scientist, and he's an absolute leading expert in Arabian Sea ecology. You see, the Arabian Sea is a very unusual sea because it is anoxic at depth. Right, it's one of the few oceans which has this anoxia, and he is an expert on that, and the people at NIO in general. So yeah, I think we have a good reputation in the field. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, go ahead, Victor. You wanted to say something.
No, I just wanted to mention that Dr. Naqvi was on board the LOAFX, which I'll explain later on, and he was the director of the NIO, but he's retired now, but he's still active in Delhi.
Right. Thank you, Victor. So I think now, let's say next 20 minutes, I would like to spend the time on India, Germany, and also a little bit of sustainability, climate change.
Yeah.
How do you look at it?
Yeah, so, I would like to talk about climate change, if I may, because this is very dear to my heart. Not dear to my heart. I'm scared for all of us, right?
Right. Absolutely. So that's one thing. How do you let's say I have a question from Lissy. Maybe before I go to that, maybe I can ask. Lissy is asking, could you tell us more about plankton
I read it.
And why it's not sinking? What you found out interesting stuff about plankton in general? So maybe for also layman like us, could you tell us what it's about?
Well, this is one of the big riddles in science in general, that plankton, as long as it's alive, stays afloat, but when it's dead, it sinks. Now, it doesn't swim. I mean, there are some that can swim, that have a flagellum, with which they can beat, or there are animals that can float around. But there are many, many, many types of plankton that have nothing. They are just cells living suspended in the water. And the organic matter out of which everything is made is heavier than the water it displaces. Right? So it should sink. So this is just a huge riddle, and it's not even realized that it's a riddle that has made our planet the way it is. Because if it wasn't for this ability of plankton to stay afloat as long as it's alive, we would not have the oxygen in the atmosphere. The whole planet would be completely different. So this plankton has been growing at the top, in the surface where the sun is, it has sunlight, produces oxygen that goes into the atmosphere. And then when this plankton is dead, it sinks out and it leaves the oxygen in the atmosphere. Because if it were to die where the oxygen also is, then it would be decomposed and take up that oxygen again. Right? But that hasn't happened. And I just at the moment I only have some conjectures as to why plankton can stay in suspension, why life is lighter, right? The lightness of life, by suggesting that the structure of the plasma is such that it has a larger volume when it's alive than when it's dead. That's the only explanation I have, and that could be due to the tertiary structure of proteins, for instance. A protein have tertiary structures, three-dimensional, and they can be organized in such a way that they take up more space when they're alive, because it costs energy, and when they die, they collapse, and then that's why it becomes sink. That's why they sink. And then also organizing water. Water is another magical molecule. Water is one of the very few, if any, molecules or compounds that is lighter when it's a solid than the liquid. Right? And that is a property of water, which is why ice floats on the surface. Now imagine if ice were to sink, then the whole planet would be different.
Right.
Right? So it's these kind of unique capabilities of certain elements or compounds. And now at the moment I'm working on iron. Iron is a very, very interesting element that we don't know enough about in the natural world. Actually, I was diagnosed with iron deficiency. So, Karan is laughing. It's funny because I carry out iron fertilization experiments. You see, the whole ocean is deficient in iron. So the iron.
Right. So I think that's something you could speak. So coming back to climate change, actually, Victor, how do you see India now? I want to specifically understand from you. I know climate change is very close to you, and climate change, of course, invariably is sustainability and climate change can be untwined. It has to go hand in hand, obviously. So how do you see India? You have been watching it for a long time, and where do we stand in India, and what's been happening?
I think we can be quite proud of what we do. We can always do more, everywhere, all the time, always. Even I could always do more, right? So we could do more, but India is doing a lot. So I'm in no way ashamed of what we're doing. Like we have perhaps too many coal power plants. We could switch more to photovoltaic, right? And wind energy, but we're doing that well. And as I said already, we are greening. Now the greening of India, which is also taking up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And China, by the way, also is doing that, right? I mean, so India and China, there's a paper on that came out recently, the greening of India and China. So India is doing a fantastic job there, and conservation in any case, right? Because the tigers have come back, and the lions in Gujarat are also doing very well. But with regard to climate change, India is pushing for regenerative energy, and that's excellent. And kind of load well dispersed energy centers, not having centralized structures, but having them in the Gandhian sense, and in the true Gandhian sense, decentralized. And that, of course, is easier than to sustain, to maintain sustainability. So I think that a key of India's past, India has always been the land of plenty till the British came. Right? Before that, India was the one of the biggest GDPs on the planet. I think people know that now, right? We were always kind of looked up to everybody else, the rich India. And that was maintained because we were living in harmony with nature. We protected elephants, right? We had elephants all over India. I'm always talking about pre-British India. Huh? So from the Himalayas to South India and from Assam to, Madhya Pradesh, we had elephants, we had tigers, we had lions in the west, and we had, all these things were preserved. And close to the villages, we always had what are known as sacred groves, right? There were always these tracts of forest that were untouched. So we have had a long tradition, kind of self-understood tradition of nature conservancy. And now, that in the rest of the world, you see an Indianization taking place. Indianization in the sense vegetarianism is spreading. Vegetarianism was invented in India. I'm not saying that Indians are vegetarian, 30% are vegetarian, but it was started there 3,000 years ago, at a time when nobody would have ever thought that you would not eat meat, right? So India already has that. And then non-violence. Now you know that non-violence is the thing in the world, right? If you're not non-violent, then you're a terrorist. That's the definition of terrorism now. Any kind of violence, right? Who started it? Gandhi. But of course, it's a much older tradition. You see, we have not had civil wars in India like we've had in Europe. Can you imagine people in Tamil Nadu attacking people in Kerala or attacking somebody in Karnataka, just for the sake of it? I mean, here everybody's been fighting everybody in Europe. Right? The Spaniards have been fighting the French, the British, everybody, Germans, all these wars have been going on. Tell me, what kind of civil wars have we been having in India? We're not even aware of that we haven't had them. We don't have walls around all the cities. Can you imagine a wall around? The only forts we had were later on, like in particularly in the south. You see that, right? In Golconda and Srirangapatnam and so on. But basically, the villages didn't have walls and the towns didn't have walls. So we have been non-violent from the beginning, and we have respected animals from the beginning. Right? Now there's a movement in the rest of the world to ban hunting. I mean, there's a big thing now, we should stop hunting. India banned hunting in 1973 unanimously. I mean, not even proud. We take it for granted. Don't even go around saying, hey, we did this, right? Because the tiger was threatened. Indira Gandhi said, we have to save the tiger. So they said, okay, stop shooting tigers. She said, no, stop shooting any animal. And then everybody said, okay, let's stop shooting all animals. Now remember, all the Maharajas there, they had custom-built rifles for hunting. And what would the Mahabharata and Ramayana be without hunting? They were all hunting, right? That's when Sita was abducted because Ram went after this deer. And the Mahabharata, if anything happens, is because the king went hunting somewhere and he met somebody. So hunting is part and parcel of our tradition. It's still a sin, right? Considered a sin. But we gave it up like that. Just like that. It used to be the pastime. I used to go also hunt, right? Up to 73. And I just gave it up. I also decided, no, I don't want to hunt anymore. I cannot imagine shooting an animal anymore. So we did that. And we don't even tell the world, look, we did this, follow us. Okay, this is just one of the little things.
It's quite fascinating to look at the way you look at it. Yes, you said about the climate change and sustainability. Of course, on the other front, in India also we have not all over the world, but in India also very erratic climate patterns, unfortunately. So
yes.
Because I know myself coming from Tamil Nadu, which is the state, basically agrarian state. And, a monsoon is the only way if the agriculture has to, now 2 weeks back or even the last days in January, actually, normally when coming to the Pongal or Makar Sankranti, you don't have any more rains, but the rains were lashing for 2 weeks. Like when the harvest is up to the full, they lost all the harvest. So these kind of changes also makes a lot of, and the summer is getting hotter and hotter. The rivers are dry, no water. So people are actually forced to use bowels to get water below 500, 600, meters down the earth.
God. Right.
So I think these things also happens. How are we going to be, and the energy use is also high. How are we going to manage?
I think we have to have a very urgently big water management schemes. When it does rain, we have to capture that water. And if it's underground, then underground, wherever. But I mean, we have to start conserving water. We have to get a whole new way of looking at water because of this disruption of the monsoon. I mean, I also know, right? When I was a boy in Kumaon, we would start grumbling if on the 23rd of June the monsoon hadn't come, because it was supposed to come on the 21st and didn't come it came on the 23rd. But I mean, it was like that. It was like clockwork. So one of the big shocks I had when I came to Germany is that it can rain anytime.
Right.
In India, it only rained from the beginning of June, depending where you were, right? In the
Right.
south, it came earlier, but then it rained continuously, uninterruptedly until September, and then it stopped. And then you had the Chota Barsat, which briefly in January, February. That was it. But now, whenever I go home, I tell them, no, it's not going to rain. And it rains like hell, just like you had this experience, right? So the whole climate pattern has changed, which means also that we don't understand the monsoon.
Right.
Because what has changed? I mean, we had these theories about how the monsoon functions, but now it's not functioning like that. Now we have what is called Western disturbances. Where does that water come from? The one that is raining, like when we were there in 2015, it rained like hell in March, and it was monsoon-like rain. Where did that water come from? So the old story that it was coming from here and from there, the Upanishad has this thing about the monsoons. No, this is another little thing I need to quickly tell.
Right. So how do you look at in terms of Germany and India, the cooperation, and how things have been happening during your time? Let it be scientific cooperation and many other things. And what is Germany's contribution to the global order together with India? And how are things?
Well, I think that under Chancellor Merkel, Germany has become a role model for the rest of the world. When she accepted the refugees who came in 2015, right? This large-heartedness, it has paid off. It has paid off because if you are good, it pays off. That's why you want to be good, right? I mean, look at this last president who's just left the US, right? What a horrible man, right? And look at the disaster he created. Because if you're like that, if you're an autocrat and you don't listen to people and you're only thinking about yourself, you're being selfish, then you land yourself in trouble, right? So being good to others, I mean, caring for others, having empathy, right? Daya, as we say in India, that is a hallmark of being human, right? And India has championed that always, right? So I say that India managed to do all this for so many years. So it's not human nature to be like that because Indian human nature is different, or not different, but it's what you want to be, right? And it has to do also with giving much more power to the women. No? It's not by accident that the word Shakti is female, right? All the gods, their Shaktis are all women, right? And that's where they get their strength from. And now, if we can advance the cause of women all over the world will be much better. And we need to do that because we are in dire straits now. I mean, the climate catastrophe, people don't realize how bad it is actually. You mentioned that it's getting hotter and hotter in India. There will be parts of India where it'll get so hot in the next 10 15, 20 years, the birds will be falling dead from trees because they can't take that temperature. 50 degrees and more, right? And rainfall patterns also destabilize. But the worst is sea level rise.
Right. So I think that's going to be a challenge. So I think closely we are coming to the end of the program. Before I give the audience the last opportunity to discuss, one thing before I close, Victor, Pravasi Bharatiya Samman. It's, I mean, the award actually for the, Indians and person of Indian origin outside, like a Bundesverdienstkreuz. Um, how was it? I mean, how did you feel? I think it was something that, like any of us would have, and you don't expect or you don't work for something like an award, obviously it's
No.
something that is, but how was it, the feeling, and how was it? Can you prescribe? You went to India, you received that from the president. How was it, the whole journey? I'm pretty sure Karan was also with you.
Yes. But you yourself got it, the award. No. So I happened to be in Goa at the time.
Right.
And then I suddenly got this news that I had been selected. And then it was a meeting in Jaipur,
Okay.
the meeting. So yeah, then I was already in Goa, so then we just flew to Jaipur, had a great time. It was fantastic. They entertained us very much, and you enjoyed it too, right? And as usual, no, we also had the big ceremony at the end. We were dancing.
Oh, nice.
Yes, Karen was one of the first. No, they came and got Karen and dragged her on the dance floor, and then we were all dancing. So yeah, great. It was very uplifting and nice. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Victor, for that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of the program. It's 20:00 hours, but I would like to open the floor for the final thoughts and questions. Something you would like to speak to Victor, free flowing, and there is nothing you would like to go through an agenda. Just speak to him whatever you feel you would like to speak to him. So the floor is open. Please go ahead. So, as always, sir has to break the ice. Sir, go ahead.
No, I'd just like to thank you for a very interesting talk. I think, but I just read your short autobiography today, and I think I would have loved at least to hear your thoughts on philosophy and the class of culture and that sort of thing. So I think I thought that 1.5 hours is quite a long time, but I find that it's too short.
Absolutely.
Maybe we need to have a session of this. I would really love to hear your thoughts on the philosophy, Eastern, Western philosophy.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that.
I think, Victor, you have to invite the Consul General, sir, for your bamboo shoot ceremony. We are going to harvest next time, and I'm pretty sure he's going to enjoy that.
Yeah. You have to come to Bremerhaven anyway, no? Since you're consul of this whole area.
Yeah.
I will be delighted to host you.
Oh, thank you very much. And I hope, we get to meet physically soon.
Yes.
We would of
be
course
great.
love to host you here in Hamburg also.
Right.
Really look forward to that and a tour around your garden.
Yeah.
My loves gardening,
Oh, wonderful.
So she's trying to make a big garden here in Hamburg also.
Okay.
And then bought a lot of plants. So let's see. We'd love to, have a look at your garden, I'm sure.
Yeah. You really enjoy it. Excellent.
But I must say, thank you very much. It's been very, very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And so any others? I think, Dilip, you have just come on board. Would you like to speak to Victor on something?
No, I've been here for all the talk.
No, I know that, but just on the camera, I mean.
Yeah,
hello, Dilip.
Okay. Hi. I'm back in India, so it's quite late here.
So okay.
But just before we let you go,
please go
what
ahead.
would be your advice for any new? I picked up my PhD right now. I'm in the first year, so any advices on? Thank you. Any advice on how do you approach it, or generally, what is the advice on some guidelines or advice on how to move forward?
Get interested in what you're doing, and do what is interesting.
Okay.
Right? It's a feedback. So the more you go into something, deeper you go into something, and broader you go into something, do both simultaneously, broad and deep. You can do that. Your brain can do it. Challenge your brain, and your brain will cope. And then interest, right? That you need to get your emotions going, right? You need to be interested in it. Then you will be successful.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dilip. And Rajneesh Bhai, have some thoughts or something? Now you have probably.
Thoughts, yes, all the time. And no specific questions, but really a very, very, very inspiring talk, a very inspiring evening. So thank you very much, Bala, for inviting Professor Smetacek, and so that we could hear those insights, because I was not aware of his work, even though in Hamburg for a long time. And I also can really say that time simply flew by. We did not even realize that it's already an hour and a half. So I would love to maybe have some another event when maybe even physically it's possible to have something in presence, something over a longer period of time, and maybe we can include you in our India Week Hamburg planning. Maybe we can have some event within the framework of the India Week Hamburg, it would be really wonderful to have you there.
Right. I would love to give some more talks on the uniqueness of India, because we don't appreciate enough how unique we are, actually, India.
Right. So that would be a very interesting discussion, and moving beyond the traditional topics, because what happens with India is either we get something which is very run of the mill, standard talks about yoga and this, or we go on talking about economic developments, etc. But this unique part sometimes gets missed, and I would love to organize something with you, maybe for the India Week, and I would connect with Bala and then come to you on that.
Gladly. That's the future. That's the future. Because what you mentioned was run of the mill is today, but we have to go into the future. We have to make a bright future for ourselves. Otherwise, we are doomed. And India has much to say for that. And we'd love to share my thoughts.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. I have also noted that, uniqueness of India.
Right. I think I was about to, but I think we are all like-minded here. I am pretty sure. I think CG sir also has noted, and Rajnish Bhai. So I think we will probably think about something. I'm pretty sure. Also, India Week is a very, very good platform. So the reach is also high, but maybe also CGI could also think of something in terms of it, how we can do it. Maybe when the things will get better. So physically, I think it's much more appealing also. I mean, on certain things like philosophy, one point I would have loved certainly to touch upon, but as I said, when I looked at the time, it's also 1.5 hours just gone like anything. So but sure, the good thing is that you are not very far away, and so I think probably we can catch up in one or other way. Rajesh Bhai.
Prior to that, Balabhai, prior to that, we can also do something online.
Yes, of course, it's always there. That's true.
Up to that point of time, we luckily now have this platform, and with this digital platform, we can organize some more events even prior to that. I would get back to you on this.
Yes, we will discuss and we'll get back to CG sir as well. So we will try to look at something on that. Sure.
Good.
Wonderful. So thanks everyone for the evening, and thank you, Victor. And I'm sure Karan is there probably next to you. And so Karan, thank you very much. It's wonderful to have you also here, and hopefully we could catch up in your garden also sometime.
We make food also.
We make better food. And probably we can chat up in a nice weather. And the others also, thanks a lot, and thanks to the Consul General sir for being here, and thanks to the Parminder Bhai for all the support in that. And we have please, those who are here, it is in the YouTube live, so it is already recorded version. So tomorrow we will update it also in the CGI website, in the column of the Wednesday dialogue series immediately, and a Facebook post will be also updated. So we want to record it and keep it for our others who could not join today, and that's something we wanted to do it. Yeah, wish you all a nice evening. Stay all safe, and see you at the next event. And we want to say also that before I forget, 24th of February, please note down your calendar. 24th of February, Wednesday evening, will be the next Wednesday dialogue series. And it will be none other than very Honorable Consul General Sir. He's going to be our chief guest and personality of the month.
Wonderful.
So at least when I spoke to him for 1 hour, one hour and more, little glance he shared about your personal story, and I can tell you, you would miss it, really miss it if you don't join. It's going to be really, really very interesting, where all he has gone and where he has come and what he is going to. So some of the things he is keeping it on his side, on revealing to me also on that day. So I'm also quite excited. So we all look forward to welcome you on 24th of February in the next edition of WDS. Thank you. Good day. Stay well. Bye.
Thank you all also for your patience.
Bye.
Thank you. Namaste. Yeah. Bist du noch da, Familie Wiedemann?
Ja, ich bin noch da. Hallo Karen, das war ja toll, euch zu sehen. Hallo. Ich glaube, es wird jetzt noch aufgezeichnet. Warte.
Okay. Ja, brauchst du nicht. Das werden die auf YouTube. Ja, da sind die. Oh, hey, hallo, hallo Erik. Hallo Stella, hallo Stella. Oh, guck mal, Stella hat ganz dunkle Haare schon, ne?
Ja, stimmt.
Und Erik, wie geht's dir?
Gut.
Hast du ein blaues Auge oder hast du dich angemalt? Ah, du hast dich angemalt. Toll siehst du aus. Oder was hast du gemacht?
Das täuscht gerade ein bisschen, oder?
Der sieht aus, sieht er nicht aus, als hätte er da so Augen.
Ja, wie kommt denn das?
Stella ist ganz normal, aber Erik sieht doch gerade so dunkel aus. So, und ihr habt zugehört auf Englisch so lange, habt ihr das ausgehalten?
Ja, die Kinder nicht die ganze Zeit, oder?
Ah, okay,
Ihr seid dann
ja.
rumgesprungen, aber den Anfang habt ihr mitgehört und jetzt eben auch nochmal.
Ja, toll.
Ja, ihr lernt dann noch Englisch, dass ihr das auch versteht.